Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. So I've been doing this tier list ranking for mainly classic rock albums from 1966 so far up to 1982. And going through each of the videos, I only knew 13 albums from 1966, and then it got a little higher each year for the most part. And, in the 70s, I knew quite a few albums. I think 1970, 1973 was the most albums that I knew, 56 albums. And then by 1982, it really dropped off to 18 albums. So it must be the early 80s when I started to lose interest in newer bands. For the most part, I would still buy, some new bands' albums. And then the bands that I was a fan of, either, some of them either disbanded or didn't put out as many great albums or whatever in the 80s. So what I'm going to do here, I started to do a list for 1983, and on the very first page of albums, there wasn't a single album that I knew. Like, I might have heard parts of a couple of the albums, but you'll see what I'm talking about here. So, top albums of 1983. I use Rate Your Music to find the albums. So, Speaking in Tongues, that's when I stopped buying Talking Heads albums. Not that it's a bad album. I have heard most of it. Burning Down the House is a great song, of course. But my favorite Talking Heads album is Fear of Music. So, yeah, I stopped buying Talking Heads albums. Tom Waits, I never got into. In the recent past with my Patreon, I have listened to a couple of his albums and enjoyed them. REM, I never bought that album, Murmur, but I bought, later ones. Dio, I never got into, or New Order. Metallica, never bought. Iron Maiden, I never got into. Satan. Ooh. The Fall. I've liked what I've heard of The Fall, but I've never bought any of their albums. Tears for Fears, I only bought the follow-up to that album. The one with Shout and Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Never got into the Oingo Boingo, Glenn Kellaway's favorite band, Slayer. So as you can see from the first page, not a single album that I know well. Let's go to the second page. Swans, I've heard of, but I've never heard their music. I've heard that album, Marillion, but I'm not really into them, except for Clutching at Straws. It's the only Marillion album I have now, and I love that album. War, of course, I bought that album, enjoyed it. I was a big U2 fan back then. Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. Madonna, I never bought. What happened to rock music in the early 80s? Motorhead, I love Motorhead, but I never did buy Another Perfect Day. I bought that when it came out, The Police, but I'm not a big fan of the band. Never got into Echo and the Bunnymen. Minutemen. So far, not too many albums that I owned. So I think this is the year where, like I said, it kind of dropped off my interest in new music. Cyndi Lauper I bought. She is a great artist. The Cure, I never bought Japanese Whispers. X, no. Big Country. Where's all the rock and roll? Soft Cell. Boy, this year sucks for music. Eliminator. Hey, I bought that album. I love ZZ Top. So yeah, if I did a tier list for for this year, it wouldn't be much. Like I said, I think this is the year a big drop off in buying new albums. Let me know what. Yeah, I'm really curious. What do you think of this year? All these albums I'm showing. Did you have, the Waterboys and all that? Billy Idol I bought. Rebel Yell. That was good. Never got into the Fix. But one thing I've noticed when doing these tier list rankings, there's sometimes a certain album I'm not that familiar with for whatever reason. Not that I don't like the band, but some people they really get offended that I don't know the album that well. Pyromania I never bought. So I think I might be done this tier list. I'll look later for, the 1984 maybe, 1985. But this year sucked for me. I never got into Ozzy's solo career. Just no interest in it. But I loved him in Black Sabbath. I never bought XTC's Mummer, and I was a pretty big XTC fan. You see any good albums here? Motley Crue? No, thank you. I did buy Scoop, Pete Townsend. That was interesting. I like that. Martha and the Muffins. So yeah, there's only a small handful of albums that I bought this year. I was buying Billy Joel albums. That's probably the first one that I never bought. Sorry, Billy. Triumph I never got into. Randy Newman, I never even bought that. Trouble in Paradise. Probably that year financially probably wasn't one of my best. So that could be, part of the reason. But still, there's not that many interesting bands. I never bought Men at Work, Heaven 17. I bought by John Cougar Mellencamp. I like that. Not a fan anymore, though. David Bowie. I never bought Let's Dance. I have it now, of course. I'm a big David Bowie fan. Sega I never bought. I did see them in the late 70s, opening for Max Webster, great Canadian band. Punch the Clock I bought. I thought it was good, but it wasn't as strong as his earlier albums. I never bought Hearts and Bones when it came out, but I know it very well, pretty well now, and great album, very underrated. I'm not seeing nothing I like. Flock of Seagulls. I used to think we're so stupid. I never bought Robert Plant's solo albums. Later on I did. I bought a couple. Never got into Depeche Mode. I bought Sports. I'm not a fan of Huey Lewis and the News, but I did buy that. We're about halfway through. Never. I like the Stranglers, but I never really bought their albums, except for Black and White. I'm not seeing Sparks. Duran Duran. Yeah, Sparks in Outer Space should be here somewhere. Genesis. I never even bought that. I have it now, of course, but yeah, even back then, after I think Duke or something, I stopped buying Genesis albums. Todd Rundgren. I never bought that Yes album until many years later. Great album. Yep, Van Morrison. I've heard that album since. It was very good. Quiet Riot. Never bought Bryan Adams. I stopped buying the Tubes, so I never heard Outside Inside. Never bought Secret Messages. Never bought Loverboy. Never bought Infidels by Bob Dylan. Lionel Richie. Never bought Dada by Alice Cooper. I liked Split Ends, but I never bought Conflicting Emotions. There's Sparks. 592. I don't think so. That's a great album. I love it. I guess it's probably my favorite album from 1983. It would be, yeah, I would put that in S tier. So I think you get the idea. This is the year when I definitely, I am, like I said, I am going to check, maybe later it picked up a bid in 84, 85. But Legendary Hearts, big Lou Reed fan. I enjoy that album. I love it. Weird Al. Yeah, part of the reason I'm doing this is to show you how I lost interest in music in the early 80s, but also I'd love your opinions. Like, what do you think of this year, 1983? I Never Bought Kiss, look it up. Eric Clapton, Money and Cigarettes. So, Never Bought Cheap Trick. Yeah. So I think I'm done here. You get the idea. The Revolution by Night, I never even bought that when it came out. A big trans I love. I've loved trans. Glad I didn't stop yet. That would be S tier for me. Black Sabbath, never bought that. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I would love your thoughts on the year 1983. I never bought the final cut, Pink Floyd. So thanks for watching. Looking forward to your comments below. Bye.